I'm Suzanne Bonamici, and I represent Northwest Oregon in Congress, and I serve as a senior member on the House Committee on Education and Workforce. And higher education, particularly the high cost of college, is a top priority for me in Congress. I think about my own path years ago when I started first at community college for 2 years. I didn't start right after high school. I worked for a while, so I was on my own at the time. I had a combination of grants and loans and work study. And after community college, I did university for 2 years, law school for 3 years. So I had 7 years. And at the end of that 7 years, I had a very manageable amount of student debt. In fact, I went into public service. I worked at legal aid and I worked for the federal government in consumer protection, and I could repay my loans. I didn't go into private practice right away. I didn't need to because I had manageable debt. That is not the story that I'm hearing today from graduates. It's a different reality. Costs have gone up significantly. One estimate showed about tripled. The cost of about tripled since I went through college. College tuition, we know, has grown faster than income, and student debt is higher in the United States than almost any other country. Federal grants and loans originally meant to pay for most of education now only cover a small share. We know that those federal programs, the grants, have not kept up with inflation and rising costs. High interest rates is something I'm very concerned about, and growing balances on student loan debt have pushed borrowers into a deeper hole, and that makes repayment more difficult, if not impossible. And then add to that mix the pandemic. We knew that there was an increased need for flexibility, and there was some compassion, really, for borrowers experiencing the financial strain during that tough time. So the payment pause was put into effect. It made a difference for millions of borrowers. And I really think also about the borrowers from very low income families, borrowers of color, people disproportionately affected by the amount of debt. And I've really had conversations throughout this time with borrowers across Northwest Oregon who have expressed a lot of anxiety about our current student loan system. I remember sitting even before the pandemic at a roundtable conversation about people in public service in tears because they made their decision about what to study and what job to take based on that promise. And the public service loan forgiveness program was not working. So we know that there were really tough decisions. And then, as I mentioned, the pandemic, and then people were putting a lot of life decisions on hold, making decisions about whether to buy a house or get married or have kids. And so again, that was true even before the pandemic. So President Biden and the Biden administration had a plan that they worked through and had a plan to forgive up to $20,000 in student debt for more than 40 million Americans. It would have helped predominantly low-income borrowers, and also there's a concern of borrowers who have debt but no degree. Well, this was challenged, and as you likely know, the Supreme Court struck it down. But now there's a new plan, and I hope that this will withstand legal challenge and deliver relief, because we know that this relief is needed. So the question is, what happens now? We know that payments on student loans will resume September 1st. And what I'm working on and what this webinar will help with today is to make the transition back to repayment as smooth as possible. I know there's a lot of anxiety about it. So I've introduced legislation to promote better and more frequent communication with the Department of Education to borrowers, and to continue to work on legislation to make loan repayment more manageable. So I'm glad that the Department of Education, working with the administration, have created several options that will ease the transition to repayment and make repayment more affordable. And I know and acknowledge that more can be done. So I do encourage you to visit a brand new page on my website that provides all the information that will be covered in this webinar, including links to the programs we're discussing today. And that can be found at Bonamici, bonamici.house.gov/issues/student loan-repayment. So my staff, I want to acknowledge my staff, Brenda, who's with us today, We'll put that in the chat so you can capture that link for more information. We have excellent panelists with us today who are going to help shed some light on these options and how you can benefit from temporary relief provided by the Department of Education. And I've recently heard about a couple of people I know who had significant, very, very meaningful loan forgiveness come through. And these are people who've been paying for years, and we hear that a lot. So I'm really pleased to have student loan and consumer protection expert and Oregon native Mike Pierce and higher education policy expert Jessica Thompson with us today. Mike is the executive director of the Student Borrower Protection Center, SBPC. He's an attorney, student borrower advocate, former senior regulator who joined SBPC after leaving the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where he served as a deputy assistant director. So Mike has worked for a member of Congress and the U.S. Department of Education. He is an expert in this field. So Mike, if you will give us an update on the work that the Student Borrower Protection Center is doing on the start of repayment. And then after Mike, we'll hear from Jessica and then open it up for questions. Mike?
Thank you so much. And thank you again for the chance to join you, Congresswoman. We have done a few different versions of this over the years, and the stakes just seem to be getting higher and higher for folks. SBPC, the Student Borrower Protection Center, is a national nonprofit that tries to address the overwhelming burden of student debt for working people across the country through policy advocacy and working with leaders like Congresswoman Bonamici to help rewrite the rules for the student loan system. We're also lawyers, and we help people bring cases against student loan companies and sometimes the Department of Education, where people's rights have been violated, where people are not able to get their rights to debt relief or affordable monthly payments. We also are the lawyers that helped coordinate the outside legal defense of the president's effort to cancel student debt for everybody. We remain in that fight and share the Congresswoman's optimism that we're going to be able to deliver debt relief to everybody. We are also excited to talk about all the ways that this administration has been canceling debt for working people since the president came into office. President Biden inherited a very broken student loan system. It routinely broke the promises that it made to people that have student debt, whether they worked in public service and were trying to make heads or tails of the public service loan forgiveness program, or whether they had been stuck in debt for decades, struggling to make sense of all of the range of different income-driven repayment options, which you'll hear more about today, to the millions of people that had gone to a for-profit college and were the victims of fraud, and were lied to and deceived by big predatory schools that haven't existed in more than a decade, but the debts persist. And so we have been working with partners, including my friend Jessica at TICAS and many others across the advocacy community, to deliver justice, long overdue justice, to people who had been cheated by predatory schools. All of these different categories of borrowers, millions of people in total, have been promised debt relief by this administration, and the administration is working hard to keep those promises while at the same time executing this return to repayment. So I'm excited to be here today and to talk about all of these things, but in particular, I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper on what to do if you've been promised debt relief and how to navigate the bills that are coming into your inbox right now for debts that you might not owe. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you again, Congresswoman, for leading this fight for so long, and for the chance to talk to Oregonians again about their rights under the law.
Thank you so much, Mike. Great to have you with us again. And thanks for your years of advocacy and expertise in this area. And next, we're going to hear from Jessica Thompson from the Institute for College Access and Success, or TICAS. She's the vice president of the organization. And in this role, Jessica leads TICAS's work on college access and affordability. She previously spent 6 years as a higher education policy analyst for the University of Washington, where she worked on policy and administrative problems related to energy assistance, homelessness, and mental health. So Jessica, please tell us what TICAS is working on in this area. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for having us, Congresswoman, and for always being such a great partner in looking to make these policies work better for borrowers everywhere, including Oregon. I regret to say that I'm from Washington State originally, not Oregon, so my apologies, but thanks for having me. So I have been with TICAS. TICAS has been around the Institute for College Access and Success for 18 years. We've been kind of doing this work for a long time. It's hard to imagine, but 18 years ago, this issue was much lower on the radar, and has, as Mike has mentioned, really only continued to become more urgent, and the problems become deeper and more complex since we began at TICAS. I've been at TICAS for 11 of those 18 years, and we are really focused on looking to reimagine a national higher education system writ large, where all students, regardless of their background, can complete the college credential of their choice with confidence that it will actually pay off for them, provide them a pathway toward economic mobility, in addition to other benefits of education and financial sustainability, and most importantly, to be able to do that without needing to take on student loan debt at all, right? And so we're here today to talk to a lot of folks who have already been living with the system that we have, that you heard Mike talk about a bit, and are looking at the bills coming in and carrying that burden. And so we, that work is a big part of what we do in terms of trying to partner with folks like Mike and other partners, organizations who are trying to reduce the burden of that debt. But we also are looking to really get to the source and to create a system that does not require the reliance on debt to begin with, so that we can really disrupt sort of this experiment really in debt financed education that is not working across the board for anybody. So with that said, happy today to jump in and answer like the real pressing questions that I know people have, because either they or their kids or lots of people around them are looking at the bills coming due, and it's complex and there's a lot of pieces out there to navigate. So thanks again for having us.
It is, and thank you so much, Jessica. I share that vision for a debt-free higher education. And when the Higher Education Act passed back in the Civil Rights era, and President Johnson talked about how finances should not be a barrier for someone who wants to pursue higher education. And just again, to reiterate, a lot of people who have student loan debt have been paying, and just can't get ahead. People who now say now their balance is more than they borrowed. That is such a broken system. And you're absolutely right to have that vision. And I look forward to working with you on that. So thank you both for being here. Excited to kick off this important discussion. We're going to be taking a mix of live and pre-submitted questions. So if you would like to ask a question, please click on the Q&A at the bottom of the screen and type in your question. I'm going to read the pre-submitted questions aloud, and then Brenda from my team will be reading the live questions. I think we're going to be able to cover a lot of questions and issues here, but if you do need further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact our office, or if you do not live in the 1st Congressional District, you're a member of Congress. If you live in Northwest Oregon in the 1st District, you can reach us by going to bonamici.house.gov and then clicking on contact. Okay, our first question is going to be from Amanda. And Amanda says, I've been paying loans for about 11 years. I don't understand why this SAVE plan is special. I keep seeing it in my newsfeed. Can you explain why it's different? So I'll ask Mike and Jessica to tackle it.
All right, I'm going to take this one on first, and I don't know what kind of repayment plan Amanda is in right now, whether it is a plan that's based on her income, or whether it's a standard plan where she's paying the same amount every year regardless. But one thing I will say about the SAVE plan, the primary components that are really a step forward and strengthen and make payments more affordable for borrowers than they are right now are around two key changes. One is that these are payments that are based on your income, right? And some people are in these plans already. The Repay plan was the most recent. If you are in that Repay plan, you will automatically be in the SAVE plan, right? So that will happen automatically. If you aren't in the Repay plan, but another IDR plan, you can get into the Save plan through your servicer and through the Department of Education. The application is out now. It's fairly simple. You can also always call your servicer and speak to your servicer about wanting to get into this plan. It is up and running and available before restart, which is really important. Time is key here. It will take some weeks for them to process this, but they are really looking to get as many folks enrolled and ready to go before repayment start as possible. So here are the key improvements in this plan that will affect the affordability of loan payments. One is that the income that is protected from being part of the calculation of what your payment will be every month is increasing. So more of your income will be set aside and protected and not considered when your loan payment is calculated. So this is going from what was 150% of the federal poverty level is jumping up to 225% of the federal poverty level. And just so folks know, what that, can look like is for a, single borrower. Let's see, I just want to give you the actual numbers here. So if you are a single borrower and you're making under 40K, your payment will be $0 in this plan, but you will be in good standing and you will be making progress toward your total repayment term obligation in terms of number of years. If as your family size goes up, that amount of income goes up, right? And so that's going to be a really significant benefit for many folks who now more of them will have $0 payments if their incomes are low. And then as their incomes get higher, they will start to make monthly payments based on that income. So that is a really key, significant benefit that will lower payments for everybody who's in an income-driven plan. The other key thing, and you heard the Congresswoman talk about this, and I know it's been on a lot of folks' minds, is that issue of your balances going up. If you were in an income-based plan and your income meant that your payments weren't even covering your interest accrual every month, your actual balance was going up, even though you were making your income-based payment. And that's very stressful to see. That balance continuing to go up, up, up. In the SAVE plan, the federal government will be subsidizing the interest charges for anybody who is in that state. So if your income means that your payments aren't covering your interest, they will cover the interest accrual for the entire time that happens while you are in this SAVE plan. That means that you won't see those balances continuing to go up and to grow, even though you are making your income-based payments. That is a really significant benefit and improvement over what we currently had available in the Repay plan. The other thing I just want to point out is that borrowers whose original principal loan balances are quite low, $12,000 or less. We tend to see this for community college students or students who tried college, maybe took out some debt, but did not complete. We actually do know by data that those students struggle the most, even with very low balances, to be able to pay it off because they don't receive the return on investment if they didn't complete. And so if you had a balance of $12,000 or less, a principal balance, you can receive forgiveness of any remaining amount after 10 years. And then for every additional $1,000 on top of principal, on top of the $12,000, you add another year up to 20 or 25 years maximum toward forgiveness, right? And this is a key element of these income-driven plans, of which SAVE is one, that you will not pay off forever. There is a light at the end of the tunnel that means if your debt has not paid off and your income-based driven payments have not meant that you have retired your debt after the number of years that you're required to pay, that any remaining debt will be canceled or forgiven. So that is why I think the SAVE plan is a really, really big step forward for borrowers as a safety net. Make sure that you have that your contact information is updated with your servicer. Make sure that you are in the plan. If you're not, you can enroll in it. If you have questions, call your servicer. For many, many people, this will be the plan that produces the most affordable payments for them. Now look at, the estimator will also tell you what's the cost of borrowing over the length of repayment as well. For some people, if that's something you want to maximize or think about in addition to monthly payments, you can get all that information through the repayment estimator. There's one last point I'll make on this. A year from now, there is one other key element to the SAVE plan. It will not be implemented immediately, but it will be implemented a year from now. For undergraduate debt, they will cut in half the amount that you must pay each month from 10% of that discretionary income to 5%. That is going to be a key shift that will also lower those monthly payments for many, many borrowers. Again, that is for undergraduate debt, and that will be implemented next year, not this summer. So I do want to mention that, but it's not implemented yet. Mike, anything you would add to that?
The only other thing I would add, there's another way out of debt that's coming on in a year for borrowers that just borrowed a kind of modest amount of debt when they first went to college. So it's an original principal balance of $12,000 or less. The government's going to cancel your loans after 10 years. So this is not public service loan forgiveness. This is available to anybody that just took out an original principal balance of $12,000 or less. And then because everything is complicated with student loans, there's a sliding scale that shortens your amount of time to debt relief up to 20 or 25 years, depending on what kind of debt you have. But there is a way out of debt for lower balance borrowers with older loans. That is also not going to be available till next year. But otherwise, I think Jessica nailed it.
Great. Thank you so much. That's incredibly helpful information. And I know how encouraging it must be for people to think that even if their payments don't cover the income driven payments don't cover that's going to be taken care of, so that their balance is not going up and while they're in that IDR plan. Okay, Brenda, do you have a live question for us?
I do. Our first live question is, are Parent Plus loans eligible for any type of relief programs?
I'm happy to do this one. So there's a short version to this and a longer version to this. The short version to this is that generally speaking, parent borrowers, unless they take some extra steps, are not going to be able to benefit from any of the available income-driven payment plans, including the new SAVE plan. The slightly longer answer to this question is, if a parent borrower is able to consolidate into a new direct consolidation loan, there is one income-driven payment plan that's available. It's the oldest of those plans, and it pegs your income-driven payments to 20% of your discretionary income. So it's not as generous as the SAVE plan that Jessica just laid out, but it is an option that's available for most Parent Plus borrowers if they're able to consolidate their loans. There are Parent Plus borrowers that are in circumstances where they may want to talk to a financial counselor or a lawyer, because there may be other ways to be able to get an affordable monthly payment, but it's more complicated. And I think just generally as a rule, there are not as many options available. I'm going to talk in a little bit about a particular debt relief program that is available for Parent Plus borrowers with older parent loans that might actually be able to get their debts canceled right now. I'm going to maybe put a pin in that and we can get back to it. But just know that if you do have a Parent Plus loan that's been in repayment for more than 20 years, there's potentially another way out that's not this new income-driven payment plan.
That's good to know. Thank you, Mike. Now we have a question, a pre-submitted question that comes from Eric. And Eric said, I graduated from college in June of 2022. So I've not paid for student loans due to the pause. Do I have to apply for a repayment plan, or does the student loan servicer choose the best one?
Great
Who would
question.
like to take that?
I'll start. I'll grab that one. So this is a really great question. We have, because the payment pause has been in effect for several years now, we have a fair number of folks who will be entering repayment for the first time when payments restart. And if you graduated during the pause, or you were in your grace period during the pause, and you have never made a loan repayment, a loan payment, then what you need to do is for sure make sure that your FSA account is set up and you can access it, that you can see your servicer information there, and you need to contact your servicer and make sure that they have your contact information correct. And you should select a plan. You should use the repayment estimator tool. You can also talk to your servicer and they can walk you through it to see which plan is the best for you. If you do not do that, the servicer will default you into what's called the standard plan, which is, for many people, can be the highest cost plan, because it just takes your debt and it amortizes it over a fixed 10-year period. And you will have a fixed payment amount per month, right? That does not take into account your income or your family size. So for many borrowers, for all borrowers who are coming into repayment for the first time, absolutely connect with your servicer, make sure you're in a plan. I also want to say you can sign up for auto debit. And one thing that's really important for folks, even folks who are coming back into repayment from pre-COVID, you need to reset up your auto debit if you had it. Again, a reminder that that gives you a small interest rate reduction of 0.25%. Of course, once you set it up, you want to make sure that you're able to make those payments when it comes through your bank account. But that is one thing that also both people entering payments for the first time and returners should contact the servicer and reset up their auto debit if they want that to be in place. But yes, absolutely.
Really helpful information, Jessica. And I hope, Eric, that you heard that message. And everyone else, please make sure that you are checking your account and updating your information. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions when you are hopefully choosing the best plan for you. Did you want to add anything to that, Mike?
I thought it was perfect.
All right. So next we're going to turn it over to Brenda for another live question.
Our next live question is, as someone earning abroad, how will currency exchange impact my repayment plan?
I can offer a half an answer and maybe suggest you also talk to a financial advisor, because that's a more complicated question than I think any of us would like to offer live here, probably. The Department of Education doesn't do that calculation for you. The only way that these programs contemplate earned income different from US dollars in the lower 48 is that the federal poverty limit is different for Alaska and Hawaii and the territories. Otherwise, if you are out of the United States of America, your payment's going to be set in US dollars, and you're going to have to figure that out on your own. So you might want to talk to a financial advisor. I see Jessica nodding, which means I did not bungle that, I hope. But that is the best I got for you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Did you want to add anything, Jessica?
Nope, just co-sign everything Mike said.
Okay, so the next question that was pre-submitted is from Debbie. And Debbie asks, if a borrower is on the income-based repayment or IBR plan and has made continuous payments for the past 10 years, not in deferment or default, will they lose the months of credit for these payments if they move to the repay or save plan? Currently, they would receive forgiveness after 20 or 25 years of repayment under the current IBR plan. We're not sure if we should move from IBR to one of the other income-driven plans. Great question. And I'm going to ask Mike and Jessica what they think about Debbie's question. Current IBR, should they switch?
I am going to try to answer this question, and then I'm going to offer a little bit of context for my answer for this question, because I think that there are lots of people that do not have 10 years of payments under an IBR plan, but have been making payments for a decade or more. And there's an opportunity for them too here. So I guess first, directly responsive to this question, you will not lose credit towards loan forgiveness if you switch into a new repayment plan that's also an income-driven plan. The new income-driven plans will offer credit towards eventual debt cancellation for any payments made under any other income-driven repayment plan. And as Jessica mentioned before, if you're in the revised pay-as-you-earn plan or repay, you don't have to do anything at all. That just becomes the save plan. But for people in these other older income-driven repayment plans, you do have to take a step. There are potentially some costs that come with that step that I would just want to flag. One of those is under this particular plan, income-based repayment, your payment will never be higher than the amount that you would have paid under the 10-year standard plan when you first entered income-driven repayment. That's not true for the new plan. And so if you're going to expect to earn a lot more money later in your career, it may actually make sense for you to just sit tight and get credit under your existing payment plan, even though the monthly payment might be slightly higher, because down the road, your payment could be dramatically higher under this new save plan. So that's not everybody, that's just the highest earners, but there is potentially some cost to switching. The repayment estimator will help you work through some of those costs. This is a great place to ask those questions, but also there's lots more information available on studentaid.gov. But I did want to use this as an opportunity to talk up the promise of debt cancellation under all of these plans because of a different initiative the Biden administration put in place. This is a mouthful. It's a program only government could name, but it's called the Income Driven Repayment Account Adjustment. And what that does is it basically treats everybody who is not in deferment, not in default, as eligible to get credit for their past payments on their loans towards debt relief. So say you are not in this person's circumstance, and instead you had just been making standard or extended monthly payments, like lower monthly payments, or even using forbearance for a really long period of time. You will get credit towards loan forgiveness under income-driven repayment for those periods of time too, under this new initiative. That will be applied to everybody's accounts automatically if you have a direct loan. If you have a different kind of federal loan, one that was made by a bank or another private lender, the acronym for that is FFEL, or Federal Family Education Loan. Sallie Mae was the biggest lender of those loans for most of the past couple decades, but no new loans have been made under that program since 2010. But if you're one of those borrowers with those older loans, you can get credit for any payments you were making under any available payment plan too, by consolidating those loans into a new direct loan. It's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of steps there. We have a website that will walk you through that called cancelmystudentdebt.org. It's a website that we put together in partnership with a number of large labor unions and offers great FAQs and much more detail specifically to that audience. You have an older loan, you want to figure out how to get it canceled. So I just wanted to use this as a chance to flag that there is a way out of debt for folks through income-driven repayment. Even if you've never enrolled in an income-driven payment plan before, the administration's basically getting everybody back to even, giving you credit as if you were making all of those payments and letting you pick up where you would have picked up if you had done all of the, if you'd navigated all of the tricks and traps along the way for the past 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Thank you, Mike. And it was a great explanation, but I think it shows all the different complexities of this system. So I just want to repeat the link that Mike mentioned, cancelmystudentdebt.org, and you can get more information about that. Okay, now we have time for a live question, Brenda.
Hi, our next live question is from Kim. I am an early childhood special education teacher that serves children and families throughout Multnomah County. I have ran into major challenges with repayment plans that I am able to afford, and then also how to qualify for PSLF. I would love to hear how I can qualify for loan forgiveness as promised during grad school.
Okay, who would like to take this one? Mike?
I feel like I've been talking a lot. I'm going to do this one, and then maybe I'm going to keep my mouth shut and let Jessica do the next couple. But so I mentioned the same website, cancelmystudentdebt.org. This was created as a resource for people working in public service to help explain the rules of the public service loan forgiveness program, but also the set of emergency actions that this administration has taken to try to fix all of the things that have been really profoundly broken with public service loan forgiveness for most of its existence. If you work full-time for a public service employer, and that is roughly a quarter of the US workforce. So any 501c3 nonprofit, no matter what it does, and no matter what you do there, any federal, state, or local government agency, no matter what it does, and no matter what you do there, any branch of the armed services, and also lots of other kinds of private nonprofit employers, but there it depends on what the organization does. And as is true with everything in the student loan system, it gets kind of complicated. But if you work for a 501c3, if you work for a school district or any other local or federal or state government agency, you serve in the military, you can get credit towards PSLF, but you need to enroll in an income-driven payment plan. And you need to be making monthly payments on time every month for 120 months, which is 10 years in total. The Biden administration recognized that this just didn't work for most people. 99 out of every 100 public service workers who applied for PSLF in its first years were getting rejected because they couldn't navigate all of these tricks and traps along the way. And so just like they gave everybody credit towards debt cancellation under income-driven repayment, they also did a thing called a public service loan forgiveness waiver that was giving folks credit towards PSLF for basically any time they made any kind of payment under any payment plan, whether or not it was on time, as long as they weren't in default. And that program worked really well. The Biden administration has canceled more than 600,000 public service workers' loans over the course of the past 2 years and is teeing up millions of more people to be on track for debt relief in the future. It sounds just like this borrower. So just know that if you are hearing about PSLF for the first time right now, but you've been making payments for a while, you can still get credit for all of those months that you've been making payments, even if you were not enrolled in IDR, even if you were not enrolled in the right kind of payment plan, because there's going to be one last shot at getting this waiver applied to your account. It also doesn't matter whether you have an older federal student loan made by Sallie Mae or a bank, or a new direct loan. The rules moving forward, it has to be a direct loan. But one last shot here, you can consolidate your loans into a new direct loan by the end of the year this year. And basically everyone's gonna get credit as if they've been doing all of these things every month for the past however many years you've been in repayment. So that's gonna cancel hundreds of thousands of more borrowers' loans, maybe millions of borrowers' loans over the next couple of years. And it's going to make the public service loan forgiveness program work as intended by Congress, which is really exciting for a lot of us that have been listening to borrowers stuck in this broken system for a really long time.
Thank you, Mike. And yes, I've listened to many of them as well along the way, because when the first cohort became eligible, I started listening to people, and yes, they were doing the right thing, but there were all sorts of excuses. Well, you didn't have the right stamp, or it wasn't the right type of organization. So yes, we're grateful that the administration has made this a priority, so that more people can go through that waiver process. And as you said, Mike, make the public service loan forgiveness program work as intended. This is especially important because, as I mentioned earlier, people made decisions based on that program about what to study and what field to go into. And then in reliance on that, it's got to be devastating for them to be hearing along the way that that wasn't working. So I'm grateful that that's happening now. And that leads us to our next question, which is from Rachel. And Rachel says, I'm finally eligible for public service loan forgiveness, but my application has not been processed. If my application is not processed by the time payments restart, should I still pay? Will that money be reimbursed? So does Jessica, do you want, or Jessica or
I'll
Mike?
start and then Mike add. I know,
Great, thank
just to
you.
give you a break for a second. I'll start with what I know, and then I'll kick it to Mike because I think, you know, he's for sure a deeper expert on PSLF than we are over here at TICAS. So I will say that if you do make payments after your 120th qualifying payment in PSLF, those payments will be treated as overpayments and refunded for you. So there is a process by which that money would come back to you as soon as your PSLF application is approved and goes through. But Mike, what would you add to that?
Refunds are important. I would say we also would love to hear directly from borrowers who have applications that are pending. There is more work that's being done by advocates and others to try to figure out what the right kind of on-ramp looks like for folks that are going to have their debts canceled anyway, so they don't have to trust their student loan servicer to track their extra payments and give them a refund. But we do hear stories about folks that are reaching that 120th payment. But because of all of these special programs, it's actually payment 124 or 128 or 340, and they're getting a stack of checks from the Department of Treasury refunding all of their overpayments. So these refunds are happening. It's not the best way to run the program. We're trying to figure out if there's a better way so people don't have to make payments when they don't owe money, which is a really basic thing, but unfortunately that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Jessica and Mike. And yes, Rachel, if hopefully you're still with us, and Rachel, if we can help you with that, and hope you can get it sorted out. But please know, if you don't get it sorted out in time, we expect that you will get a refund of any overpayment, but best to prevent having to do that. I know that would make a lot of sense. So Brenda, do you have a live question for us?
Yes, our next live question is from Joan. My daughter graduated during COVID and has not made payments yet. She has a job that has her student loans deferred. When going into the Save website, she's being asked if she wants to move out of deferment. Should she remain under deferment?
This is an interesting question. I don't know if we have Joan still with us, and it's hard for me to assume exactly what might be going on and what the relationship is with the employer and what that might have to do with her being in deferment. I will say, if she has a federal student loan, the repayment will resume, and deferment is I think that she should call her servicer, absolutely, figure out why she's in deferment, what the conditions are, and to really walk through in a personalized way, like what the trade-off might be, in terms of the length of staying in deferment versus getting into that Save plan and starting to get credit toward your potential forgiveness right after your required years of repayment. And you should be able to look at what your estimated payment would be based on your income. But I think is there anything that you can see in that question, Mike, that you would be able to say anything more about?
No, I think that's right. If she's still on the phone, maybe a little bit more detail would help us answer it, but that seems right.
Yeah. So it sounds like a case where maybe call the servicer and get on the line and ask a more personalized question than just relying on the online application and or chatbot.
That's really good helpful information. Thank you, Jessica. So we don't have any more pre-submitted questions, but I know we have plenty of live questions. So Brenda, what's our next live question, please?
Thank you. Our next live question comes from Brian. I don't Sorry, they have two questions. My loans were in default before the pandemic, and I want to go back to school. Am I eligible for these new repayment plans? And if I get into a repayment plan, can I access financial aid to finish my degree?
I'm happy to go first on this one. I have very good news for you. So there is another program that is a different Biden administration initiative called Fresh Start, and that automatically restores your eligibility for federal financial aid. And it also offers you a way to directly enroll in one of these new income-driven repayment plans if you want to, without taking a bunch of expensive and unnecessary administrative steps to get yourself out of default. That is going to be available to you anytime in the next year. Every single borrower who was in default on a student loan before the pandemic has this right to participate in Fresh Start. It also means that over the course of the next year, you're not going to face wage garnishment if you were in wage garnishment previously. You're not going to have your tax refund seized or any other federal payments offset. So it is an extra safety net for people that were in default before the pandemic, but it also restores immediately and without taking any other action, restores your eligibility to go back to school, to be able to access federal financial aid. More than 7 million people across the country are going to be eligible for this. It is a really big deal for an important segment of student loan borrowers that are often left behind by policymakers. So we're really excited to be able to share that news.
Mike, just to clarify, someone would need to affirmatively apply for Fresh Start. It's not an automatic for people who are in default. They have
to go back to school, you don't need to do anything. So your eligibility for federal financial aid on the last FAFSA was just restored. You could have filled it out. If you're going to go to an open enrollment school, you can fill out the FAFSA right now, and you can get access to Title IV student aid. And through that process, your loans will end up being put back into in-school status. You won't go back into defaults. There won't be any other steps you need to take. If you want to enroll in income-driven repayment, you need to contact your student loan company. You will have received information from the Department of Education about this. There's more information on studentaid.gov. There's also more information on our website on cancelmystudentdebt.org about how to take advantage of Fresh Start. So if what you want is an affordable monthly payment moving forward, or to apply for PSLF or debt cancellation because you have a disability, you do need to take some steps for that. If you just want to go back to school, fill out the FAFSA, go back to school.
That's great. How encouraging. That's wonderful. Jessica, did you want to add anything? Okay, Brenda, do we have some more questions?
We do. Our next question is from Rosetta. I'm a senior and disabled. I've been paying student loans on and off for the last 22 years. I'm really confused by programs. Are there any assistance or programs that sit down with seniors who are not tech savvy and can help figure out my options? I hope to not be paying my loans while I get on Social Security in a couple of years.
Okay, who would like to take that? Mike? Jessica?
Mike, I feel like maybe you should take the first crack at that again.
Would you mind repeating it one more time?
Not a problem. So Rosetta asks, I'm a senior and disabled. I've been paying student loans on and off for the last 22 years. I'm really confused by the programs. Is there any assistance or programs that sit down with seniors who are not tech savvy and can help figure out what my options are? I hope to not be paying student loans while I get on Social Security in the next couple of years.
So I think maybe the best place for you to go for help first. Oregon has a fabulous student loan ombudsman. Their name is Lane Thompson, and we can make sure to get contact information for Lane around to everybody. The Oregon legislature created this position to help people that have student loans and can't make heads or tails of all the information that's flying at them. It is honest and practical advice. It will help you figure out what your rights are. And that position and that office exists for exactly borrowers like this. And then Lane can potentially connect you with legal services or with elder services, depending on your circumstances. There are elder advocates in Oregon that are doing great work, including the Oregon AARP, that may also have resources for you. And then more broadly, if you are tech savvy enough to be able to kind of learn more about your rights on the internet, I do highly recommend both studentaid.gov and cancelmystudentdebt.org for information that's kind of targeted to people in your position. I will say it sounds like you've been in debt for a while and that those loans are pretty old. you might have a way to just get your debt canceled under one of these existing Biden administration initiatives and not actually have to go back into repayment, which would be the best outcome. So I would encourage you to check out what's available online, but also please do reach out to Lane at Oregon's Department of Consumer and Business Services, because the Oregon Student Loan Ombudsman is here to help people.
Looks like Jessica, you want
Yeah, I was just going to add on that, and the reason I deferred to Mike is because, as you heard him say earlier, he and his colleagues are lawyers, and I think work a lot more closely with some of the orgs that work directly with borrowers on the ground compared to what we do at TICAS. But I'll just add to that for other folks listening, I do think, given that the case mentioned, it will be really important for you to try to connect with some of the resources that Mike mentioned to really dig into your specific case, because it can get really complex depending on what type of loans you have and kind of what status you've been in with them. But just for folks on the call, know there is an avenue toward debt forgiveness through total and permanent disability. That's a really important resource for folks who have sort of are in that status officially. And then and also, as Mike mentioned, really worth looking into if that's federal debt and you've been holding it for over 20 years, to really look at, as soon as you're able, whether or not you might be able to take advantage of the current waiver. And I just, plan and to think through whether or not that's something that might help you as well. And as he mentioned earlier, it might mean you have to consolidate into a direct loan to take advantage of it. So there are some steps that you might need to take, but I think finding the right person to really look at your specifics is key.
Thank you so much. And if you're on the call here, Rosetta, if you can contact our office, we can connect you with that student loan ombudsman from the state. And things can get very, very complicated depending on, as you heard, the type of loan and the amount of time, and whether your disability is permanent and complete. Then you may be able to just have the loans forgiven under one of these programs. So we'd like to be able to help you. And if you're not in the first district, we can refer you to another office who can connect you with someone who can help. Okay, do we have time for another question, Brenda?
We do. We have a question from Bill. My daughter was working for a number of years in one or more 501c3, but now she's not, in large part because of the fear her student debt would never qualify for forgiveness. Can she receive any forgiveness based upon her nonprofit service years?
I'm going to try to answer that in a way that is maybe a bit more inclusive of everyone's experience and not just this borrower's experience. But you can start and stop your public service career and pick back up where you left off. The problem with public service loan forgiveness, the challenge for people in this circumstance, is that it is an all or nothing program. You either hit 10 years of qualified public service work and get your debt canceled completely, or your debt stays where it was. There's no proration. You don't get 2/3 credit because you got 2/3 of the way there. So that's the bad news. The good news is it doesn't need to be contiguous. If you left public service work, but you move back into public service work, you can pick up where you left off. And for many borrowers who may have worked in public service for a decade and then left because they got a payment count from their student loan company that didn't reflect their service, the Biden administration has fixed a lot of these problems. And there are people who left public service work that got their debts canceled under the public service loan forgiveness waiver during the first year of the Biden administration, because they waived this requirement that you have to still be working in public service to apply. That is now back in place. You do have to be in public service when you apply to get your debt canceled. And so there are people that have more than a decade worth of public service work that are not going to get a way out here without going back into public service work. But if you think you've been lied to or misled about your rights to public service loan forgiveness, it might be possible to get an exception, especially if your student loan company told you the wrong thing. So there is a wonderful advocate at the Department of Education who is the student loan ombudsman for the United States of America. And the federal student aid ombudsman can make those kinds of exceptions if you've been lied to by your student loan company, or if the rules of the program were told to you incorrectly. You can reach out to the student loan ombudsman's team at studentaid.gov. And I think it might be worth it for you to just file a complaint and say you thought you had a right to debt relief and you were misled, if that's the case, because often there's a way out, even if the rules of the program don't give you a way out.
Well, and Justin just reminded us, maybe this is a good time to review the SAVE program and what that will do. The income that's protected is going up. If the the balance will not be going up if you are in that situation where your interest is not going to continue to rise while you're making those payments. And those for those with very low balances, there could be forgiveness after 10 years, depending on your situation. If it's, I believe, $12,000 or less, and then there's also the after 1 year program starting in a year. And you can, maybe Mike and Jessica can fill that out a little bit, because that was just really top line on the
Yep.
same.
There was a question in the chat that was a really good one about if I use the save plan and then I start making more money, what happens? And so I want to point out for folks that every year your monthly payment will be recalculated based on your household size and your income. And this means that as your income goes up, your payment goes up. On the same side, if your family size goes up, that also helps to kind of restrain how much your payment goes up, right? Because your costs are higher, and so that income that's protected is higher if you have more people that you're caring for in your household. So I just want to flag that every year information is obtained, and here's a really important thing that is a little wonky, but Congresswoman Bonamici has been working on this issue for many years with us and with other advocates, and the Department of Education is sort of moving forward with something that that essentially is trying to get at the same thing, but without necessarily having to pass legislation to do it, which is to automate that annual process where you need to recertify and get your new payment, right? And so they will be able to, once you when you apply to that save plan and you enroll, it's going to ask you, do you give us permission to automatically access your data from the IRS? So that share with the Department of Education just the family size and the income information, the AGI that's needed. And if you say yes, that means every year you will not have to take action to recertify, which is currently what has been the case. And we've seen that up to over half of people in income-driven plans will fall out of those plans because they miss that deadline and they don't get the paperwork submitted in time. So just to say that is a key thing that will happen. And what that means is when that automatically happens, you'll be notified by your servicer. Here's your new calculated monthly payment for the coming year. And as your income goes up, that payment will go up. As your income goes down, it will automatically go down, right? So there's benefits there. And then I also will just flag, if your circumstances change from your last tax year data, you can go to your servicer and there is a process whereby you can get your payment altered to reflect a current status, like you lost a job. There are multiple things that could happen, obviously, that really reduce your ability to make that payment. And so I just wanted to flag that as well. But you will not become ineligible for the plan. It just means that as your income goes up, that payment will go up. And as Mike mentioned, like, it could go up if your income is really good. Your payment could go up quite high, right? There's not really a ceiling. You would pay off your debt much faster, but you might not love to make that, in which case you might say, hey, maybe I will go into a standard plan. That's probably not most borrowers, but for folks who have experienced really big jumps in income, know that that's part of it.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you for mentioning the efforts over the years to connect the information that the federal government already has within the Treasury with tax returns to the Department of Education, because too many times people were missing that deadline to update their income. So we want the government to be working together and updating that information. And actually, pieces of that were actually included in the Future Act, which passed at the end of 2019. So we're beginning that work of connecting the income information, particularly when it's needed for IDR, for income-driven repayment plans. So we keep working on it. We want this process to work smoothly, and hopefully someday we won't need it, because higher education, we hope, will eventually be debt-free. Brenda, do we have another question?
We have time for one last question, and that question is from Ken. My question is as a parent, why pay for part of the student loan debt and put the USA in further debt as a nation? Why not cancel the interest charges and allow student debts to be paid off by seeing the decrease in the amount owed as an incentive?
So
That's a great question. I'm going to start that, and then I'll turn
Perfect.
it over to Mike and Jessica. And as you heard from the conversation, in many of these programs, a lot of the interest will be canceled, and hopefully will be someday at the time when the government won't be making money by collecting all that interest as people toil to make their payments and see their balance go up. But too often, I hear from borrowers who are frustrated that their loan balance is larger than what they originally borrowed. Just recently talked to a couple people who are in that situation because, again, the minimum payments they've made do not cover their principal and interest. And of course, that's called negative amortization, and it's largely driven by what's called interest capitalization. When the outstanding interest balances are then added to the principal balance, it's incredibly frustrating. And as I mentioned, the Biden administration has taken steps to address this issue. There's a recently finalized regulation that eliminates interest capitalization under most repayment plans. And this is going to help borrowers significantly by preventing those balances from increasing as long as they are making the minimum required payment at regular intervals. And I know that's been mentioned. So on July 1st of this year, many pieces of that repayment plan or the save plan went into effect to eliminate the 100% of remaining interest for all federal subsidized and unsubsidized loan after a scheduled payment is made. So this is going to prevent those balances from increasing, and as Ken mentioned, will incentivize borrowers to make the minimum required payment with the promise that they're making meaningful progress toward paying off their loan. Again, it's been incredibly frustrating for people to keep making payments and then see their balance increase rather than decrease. But I want to note, we've had a lot of conversation about these sort of immediate needs and some talk about our long-term goals. We also need legislation for long-term changes. And that's why I support efforts in Congress to reduce the burden of high interest and loan balances. And I know several Democrats on the House Education Committee have introduced legislation called the Loan Act, which is lowering obstacles to achievement now, that would make important reforms to make college more affordable. So one of the key provisions of the Loan Act would be to eliminate interest capitalization, which this would doing it by legislation rather than rule would make it permanent. And I'm going to do all I can to advance this legislation. And also there are many other ways to reduce costs, like increasing Pell Grants, for example. Increasing Pell Grants reduces costs because the more people have a grant, the less they have to take in loan. Also, work study is something I've been working on. When people are doing work on campus and having that paid, that is a way to help without incurring more debt. So Mike and Jessica, do you have additional thoughts on Ken's question? And then we'll have some brief closing remarks.
Yeah, I'll just say great question as well, and underscore the fact that with regards to current repayment opportunities, the Biden administration has taken a big step to really help lower the costs of that interest right now for borrowers. And so just a reminder that really key that this new SAVE plan will subsidize those interest charges and keep them from accumulating. As the Congresswoman said, really key progress in getting certain circumstances where interest was capitalizing, which significantly drives that debt balance continuing to go up and up, right? And in perpetuity raising the cost of your debt. And so we've made a lot of progress there in trying to reduce the overall cost of interest. But just also to say that in terms of where the interest is set and how it's set, that is something that Congress will need to address. And as the Congresswoman says, it is a really important conversation and important for you to weigh in and communicate.
Jessica, Mike?
I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect.
Great. And would either of you like to make a closing comment before I close it out?
I would just like to say thank you for hosting this, and to the folks that are still on the line. The Congresswoman is an expert in this stuff in her own right, and it is wonderful to hear our elected leaders actually talk about this stuff with depth and expertise and compassion, and it's just always a pleasure to join. So thank you so much for having me.
Mike, really appreciate it. Jessica?
I will just repeat that you're lucky to have a Congresswoman who's a joy to work with, who really gets in deep and understands this stuff, which is really, really valuable. So thank you for having these events, for getting this information out there. And I just want to say to folks, if it sounds really complicated and confusing, it's not you. We do this all day, every day, and it's hard for us, even you can see, to like answer these questions at a really high level, because it's like, well, it depends. So just know that, and it's hard, and we know that, and that is part of that's the big piece of what drives everything we're doing.
Well, thank you, Jessica and Mike. And for people who are still wondering where to go, we do have the link in the chat for my office. And then we heard from Mike about the website, the cancelmystudentdebt.org. There was a mention of the state ombudsperson as well. Those would be great places to start to navigate this complicated system. So again, thank you to Mike from the Student Borrowers Protection Center and Jessica Thompson from TICAS. Please remember that I have caseworkers on my team in Oregon who can help if you're struggling with the Department of Education or your federal loans. Thank you again for coming, and to many of you for your public service. I know several of you are interested in the public service loan forgiveness program. Thank you for working in public service. I'm going to continue to work on behalf of students and borrowers for protections and solutions overall, and especially to the public service loan forgiveness program. And I just want to close by saying that education is a great investment and one of the best investments we can make as a country. So investing in education and giving people a path to higher education without debt is a top priority, and something that's good for not only the people who are the students, but also for our business community and for our economy. So this webinar has been recorded, and we will email the recording to you this week with a list of resources discussed in the webinar. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. A special thanks to Brenda from my staff and to Mike and Jessica. Everybody have a great afternoon.